Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Lightroom Learnings. Today we're going to learn a bit about some of the headers in Lightroom, and then we're going to enter what's called the develop module to learn how to use the basic panel. Okay, so we're over at the computer now, so we're just going to jump on here, really jump into it here. So we're going to go down and select Adobe Lightroom. What you can see here is my new trailer, which is going to be released on Tuesday. So tune into my YouTube channel on Tuesday to see my 50th upload ever. Anyway, I digress. Let's move on. So we've got Lightroom open, and what this is called here is the grid view in the library module. And there's a few modules, and I'll go through kind of briefly go through each one of them. So like I said, this is the library module. This is where you can search for things with keywords, with metadata and attributes, or flags and colors and everything. And we'll get to that at a certain stage, but that's not today. All right. So above here then we've got the develop module. That's where the magic happens. That's where we get to edit the photographs and where the fun begins, you know. Then we have the map, which is the GPS coordinates. If you have a camera like a Canon 6D or Canon EOS R and you have GPS enabled, then you have the coordinates of where that picture is taken, and Lightroom will categorize and file that away so you can see where in the world you've taken your pictures. Me personally, I have it turned off. Should I turn it on? I don't know, maybe. I might turn it on for my next shoot and just see for shits and giggles if it's any good or not. But yeah, I don't really use it, so I'll show you how to get rid of it as well. So we have the book. You can order a book from some third-party company that Adobe will work with, and apparently they're actually quite good, but I've never ordered one. I have never had the need for one, so I work with a company called Lab for my wedding albums, so I don't see the point of using the book module either. We also have slideshow. I do use that from time to time, especially for wedding clients where I'm trying to do a collage of photographs for one kind of picture, and we'll get to that module and that part of things another day. The print, I never use it. I don't print my own photographs. I outsource that to a company in William Street called the Camera Centre, or Camera Zone. Jeez, Martin's going to kill me. Martin O'Connor, if you ever need any prints, go down to Martin on Lower William Street in Limerick. He is unbelievable. Williams Cameras do a very, very good print as well on O'Connor Street. So you can't go around with those two. Please don't go to Harvey Norman's or your normal kiosk. Terrible prints. And then the last module on top, head module, is called the web. So that is where you can upload it to Adobe's own kind of photo sharing site, which I never use, and if you want to, you can, but I don't even know what it looks like, to be honest with you. So in order to make this your own thing and make it your own style, what you can do is you can right click on any of them, right? And there's a few ticks that come up here in the top right hand corner, and you can get rid of them. So I want to get rid of web, don't use it, okay? I want to get rid of the book, don't use that either. And let's get rid of map. Well, let's get rid of map for now. So here I have library, develop, slideshow, and print. They're the 4 modules that I would use. Print and slideshow, not too often, but the other 2, all the time. So let's jump over to the develop module and let's start getting to edit some photographs, okay? So we're in the develop module, and as you can see over the left hand side, I have what's called presets, and again, that's another episode and we will get to them. So we'll just close all these up here now, and down here is your history that you've actually done with the photograph. Now over on the right hand side, we're just going to work on the basic panel today, but before we get to the basic panel, let's talk about what's up here. This is called a histogram. So over here is the dark side of the image, and over here is the white side of the image. And if all this metadata, all this data over here is far to the right, then your picture is more likely going to be overexposed. But if it's all the way over to the left, then it's underexposed. Under here, you'll see the information that you've taken with your photograph. So my ISO was 200. The focal length of 600mm, the aperture was 6.3, and my shutter speed was 1/640th of a second. This is the original photo. Okay, you can see you can build a smart preview for this kind of thing. Don't want to build a smart preview, no interest in it. I like to work with this raw format here. Now right underneath here, and we'll get to these sections as well on different videos. So we have the crop overlay. We will use that maybe today if we have time. We have the spot removal tool. I use this all the time. It's very handy if you've got sensor dust in your camera. Do you ever take a picture and see all this spots all over it, and you go, oh my god, what's wrong, my lens is dirty. Maybe not, it might be on your sensor and you need to get it cleaned. So this will help get rid of all that kind of stuff. This is your red eye correction. So when you ever take a picture with a badly lit and then it's got the red kind of evil eyes in your dog or your human, at a wedding or whatever, you know, you see those old kind of red dots. It doesn't really happen with cameras as much as today, but it does happen from time to time. Here's your graduated filter, and here is your, oh, there's Joe Fitzgibbon. He's an awful man, isn't he? Here's your radial filter, and then you have your adjustment brush. So these will be more of local adjustments and local brushes, whereas the basic panel is more of a global effect for your editing your images. So also, what you see on your computer compared to mine on the right hand side here is it's slightly different because I have fine-tuned this to exactly how I want it to be. So my lens corrections is the second panel right underneath basic, and on your computer it's probably going to be down around here by calibration usually. So I've fine-tuned this to the things that I don't use too often at the bottom and things that I do use often enough more at the top. So here we're going to jump into the basic panel. We're going through a few bits and bobs, and there's Darren trying to text me now as well, telling me she is something. I don't know, Darren. I'll get back to you in a few minutes, alright? So if you look down here, we're going to reset everything. Boom, so it just goes back to normal. So here you have your treatment, okay? That's kind of common sense. It's either black and white or it's color. Okay, you kind of get that side of things. Profiles, and this is something that Adobe has introduced back in 2018, early 2018, maybe around February, March or April, around that time. And what they've introduced is these profiles, so you can have your landscape, portrait, standard, vivid, right? And if you can go in here to this side, it kind of expands that menu also. So what it is, if you've taken raw pictures, which I do entice you to take rather than JPEGs, it's more to interpret your finished product that you're going to have. So like you even can camera matchings, you have your Adobe RAW, so you can select the ones that we just talked about, landscape, standard, neutral, vivid, you know, the list is endless. And Adobe are trying to get this out now and kind of push this side of thing, and they're similar to presets but they're not, so you can work with both all the time. And as you can go on, you can down and see you can actually purchase these profiles also. So we'll close that up. Okay, I don't particularly use them too often, to be honest. Here's your eyedropper tool. So if you've ever shot, when you do shoot in RAW and you've selected the wrong white balance, it's okay, because when you shoot RAW, you're shooting with every white balance. You can fine tune it to whatever you want, because a RAW file is going to be significantly a bigger file than a JPEG, and there you can get more information in the file to edit it to a further degree. If my white balance was really wrong and I shot it to wrong Kelvin, so she's very worn, like this picture is just way too wrong. So what you can do is you can get your eyedropper tool, you can click it and you can bring it over into your picture wherever you want. And typically you want to go shoot for, find somewhere where what's called 18% gray. That is the fine-tuned, pinpoint, accurate place to select for the proper proper white balance. So close enough to white will actually kind of do. So over here in these waves I see, look, it's gray enough, we'll try that, and boom, it immediately transforms the photograph to an acceptable white balance, which is, my eyes, it was probably around that. Over to the right you have your custom, so you can actually select the white balance then as well. Like when I was shooting this, I was actually in auto white balance. I let the camera do the job itself, and boom, boom, boom. So as you can see here, you can select daylight, cloudy, shade, tungsten, whatever you want. Just leave it on custom, it's fine, because I've used the eyedropper tool already. Here is the temperature. You can slide it up to Kelvin to be really warm at 50,000 Kelvin, or you can bring it the whole way down to 2,000 Kelvin, which is really cold. So I just leave it just as the one like we selected. Now also, if you double click temperature, tint, exposure, contrast, it'll zero your slider back to 0. So you're not, so if you bring the highlights the whole way down, you're like, oh sugar, I don't think I want it there. Double click it and it'll go back to 0. Right underneath that, then you have your tint for your white balance also, so you can adjust the tint as well as the temperature, and then you can really get your fine-tune your white balance also. Right underneath here is exposure. It's self-explanatory. You want it bright or you want it dark. Slide it all the way to the left, it gets too dark. Slide it all the way to the right, it gets too bright. Now, this picture itself, me personally, the histogram is saying that it did a good job, but I think I overexposed it ever so slightly. And the histogram never lies, so maybe it's just my eyes. So what we're going to do here, we're going to drag it down just a small bit so we can see a bit more information in around these waves here. So the contrast slider is to kind of give you a flatter image so you can see more details in it, or else you can expand the distance between the highlights and the blacks, so it gives it a far more contrasting situation. You can see it there, the highlights are going up and the darks are going up at the same time. So it's good to add a bit of contrast into your photograph, but not too much. So we'll add a small bit of contrast just for now, so maybe +10 is loads, that's loads. Highlights, that's again self-explanatory, the brightest parts of the image, they're all just up here, here and here. You can drag that down and I'll bring the exposure values in that scene of the highlights down. Or if you bring it all the way to the right, then it's bringing it up. So let's bring it down a small bit, maybe to about 80 is fine, lovely. You can see these little beads of water through to the background. Shadows, self-explanatory again. So I'll bring it down, see all the shadows over here on the left and all the way over here on the right. They'll darken them. All the way to the right, I'll brighten them. So I like to just boost the shadow ever so slightly. Some people kind of make the mistake by increasing the shadow the whole way, which is, look, if it's art at the end of the day. This is photography and you can interpret it whatever way you want. Whites, so what I normally do here is to get the correct exposure, I'm going to pick the option key, press and hold, and then left click my mouse, and the screen will go all black. So what I'm doing is I'm going to drag the slider up to the right, and then you're going to see what's called exposure bleeds. So just to there, I'm going to sleeve it and down, it's perfect. And now what I want to do is I want to crush the blacks also. So I'm going to left click, option button, and the screen will go white. I'm going to drag it all the way down to the left, and there you can see the exposure bleed once again, and I'm going to leave go. Now I'm not too happy with the white balance, so I'm going to go back and fine tune that now also. So I'm going to give it a bit of a colder feel, and I can manually just drag that down there, and that seems perfect. I like that. And I'm going to bring the exposure down a bit more as well. Excellent. Now for the texture, so this is something new that Adobe introduced only a few months back, and I kind of like this, but I like to use it as a local adjustment only. I don't like it to globalize the whole image with a bit of texture, so we'll get to that another day. Clarity, very similar, so it makes an image very crunchy. As you can see, it gets very rare. If that makes any sense, I don't know. If you bring it all to the left, it's going to make that image that bit softer. Okay, so it kind of gives a very ethereal look to your image, which can suit some photographs, but I don't tend to use it. A lot of people would use it for woodland scenes, but I don't photograph the woods for some strange reason. And Joe Cole, shout out to Joe, check him out on YouTube, really nice guy. Go check his channel, I'll send a link to his channel right up here. He's doing a bit of woodland photography and I've seen his video, so something I might chance once we're allowed out of our homes at some stage. So right underneath that then you have the dehaze tool. Now this is a very, very powerful tool, and I love using this because it really gets the most out of an image. And if you slide it all the way to the left, it almost introduces what's called fog. Look, it's kind of a very dense scene, you can't really see too much, and it can add to an image. If you slide it all the way to the right, it's going to really cut through that glare. Do you ever go out and photograph the Slieve League, for instance, and then it was too misty on that occasion, that day, it's kind of that moisture in the air. So what you can do here is you can manually use the dehaze slider and it's going to cut through a bit of that. Or if you have a circular polarizer shooting on the day, which I suggest you always do, that'll help cut through that mist as well to a certain degree. So right underneath that, so we're going to zero these off, double click our clarity and our dehaze, and right underneath that is what's called vibrance. So this is a smart saturation filter, if that makes any sense. So most photographers, especially even when I started out, I was just whacking up the saturation. I love saturated images, but to a certain degree. And in an upcoming video, Gavin Hardcastle gives me a bit of a hard time when he critiques some of my photographs, along with Nick Page and Greg Snell and Adam Gibbs and Maz. Don't forget about Maz. So if you move the saturation slider the whole way over to the right, it gets very, very saturated, and it just increases all the colors in that spectrum. But with the vibrance slider, what Adobe has kind of got this algorithm to boost the saturation of the colors that it thinks that it's appropriate, and it's like what's called a smart slider. So you move it to the right and it's going to introduce it's going to pump up the saturation on certain parts of the image, but not all of them. So I like to use the vibrance slider a bit more than the saturation. So we can move that to the right ever so slightly. Lovely, brilliant. And then saturation, like I explained just previous to that. So lads, that's basically what's in your basic panel, which is really, really powerful to use those kind of things. And what we're going to talk about the next day is maybe the lens correction and the hue saturation luminance panel, and that is where your photograph can really come alive, because you can edit your colors, the luminance of them, so that's the darkness and the brightness of that color, and then you can change the hue, so you can shush you, and you can change the, just say green, you can change it to yellow, orange. So it's really, really funny, and it can be really powerful to make the most out of your photograph. So if we look at some of the edits that we did today, just those slight little adjustments, we're going to press one of the backslash key on our keyboard, and it's made a significant difference. You can see how much more you're after getting out of this raw file to being able to see it. Now, once we go in and fine tune this image, we'll come back to this again next week and we'll edit it even further. We're going to get rid of vignetting and stuff like that. Okay, guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you've any questions at all, do please comment below and we'll get to them, and yeah, I'll answer them as best I can. And don't forget, tune in on Tuesday to see my new trailer for episode 50 of YouTube. And give us a like if you can, subscribe if this is interesting or educational to you, and to see more videos and see some more of my adventures. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Heyo. Okay guys, one more thing before we go. I was talking to Greg Snell, the Canadian B-roll champ, guy that works with Thomas Heaton, Nick Page, Gavin Hardcastle. He's the guy who does all the B-roll stuff for their videos. Now he's started a course, an introduction to vlogging on YouTube course, and he'll cover everything from SEOs to vlogging, storytelling, the holy trinity of lenses. I mean absolutely everything from start to finish. I took the course myself and I really did come out on tops. I really learned a lot, and his courses start from €72.57 and they work their way up to different packages. So click the link below if that is something that interests you. I really think you should, because I learned a lot. I mean a lot, and it's helped me promote myself into the YouTuber that I am 12 months later. So guys, yeah, click the link below. I'm out here. Ayo.